Hey, South Main, if you're watching this video, it's because we believe in you and the power, the responsibility of the volunteer leaders. We probably don't say it enough. I know we don't say it enough, but we truly value you. You're a treasure, a precious commodity, and our hearts are overflowing, brimming with excitement because in recent days we've experienced, as Toby describes, explosive growth. Much of the growth we planned for, some of it we didn't, but God is blessing us. And again, to think of all the churches that God could bless and is blessing, we seem to be one of those. And so we want to spend much of our time just saying thank you, but also preparing. We want to embrace the growth. We want to prepare for growth, but we want to be faithful stewards in response to the growth. And so we want to this year spend much of our time caring and ministering to all of those people that God has brought our way. And no doubt we've grown larger, but one of our challenges is that we need to grow smaller. You've heard me say it many times. We need to grow larger by growing smaller. When I say that we need to grow smaller, I mean that we must intentionally care and minister to everyone, no matter how large we may become, no matter how large your Sunday school group is. Everyone matters. And so this intentional caring and ministering has to take place at the Sunday school level. So as you watch the short video, it's our goal, again, to remind and challenge you of the caring ministry or the care group ministry. Many of you are familiar with that term. So here we go. You've heard it said that people don't really care how much you know until they know that you really care. No matter how cliche-ish that may sound, it is so true. We at South Main, we uplift, we value the teaching of God's Word and the preaching of God's Word, and we will always put it in its highest place. But we also have to value the life of those that God has entrusted us to by simply caring and ministering to them. My friend Sergio, who works for Lifeway Christian Resources, told me a story once of a time that he was preparing to launch a brand new Sunday school class. And what he did is he just took the names of people who had once attended church but no longer attended church, and he went after them. He was in an effort trying to reclaim them back to the church. And one man was on their church roll. His name was Joe. And so Sergio went to visit Joe in a local mall. As Sergio began to talk with Joe, he learned that Joe had joined a cult, thus the absence from their church. And when Sergio began to question Joe on what they believed, Joe said this, and I quote, he said, "All I can tell you, Sergio, is that when no one else cared for me, this group was there." He said, "I really don't care what they believe. It just matters that they cared for me." And I wonder how we at South Main in these exciting days of growth, how can we avoid similar stories, tragic stories? Well, let me ask you a few questions. How would you feel if you missed several weeks from church or several Sunday school hours and no one seemed to notice, and it would appear that no one even seemed to care? What if you and your spouse or your child or someone in your family, they went to the hospital and they received no acknowledgement or visit from the class, no visit from the deacon, the pastor, anyone else? And what if you had no connection beyond Sunday morning? You had no relationship or no conversations with people in your group beyond Sunday morning. We like to say it like this: who would you call at 4 a.m. in the morning? If you don't have someone in your class that you would call, then we're probably not doing a great job at ministering and caring. And so we need to be faithful in contacting and consistently caring for all of the people that God's brought to us, because it provides us with this great opportunity to discover needs, to provide encouragement, to pray for them, and respond accordingly. Well, maybe as you're watching this video, maybe you or your class, you already have some intentional method of caring. You've already set up the old care groups. If that's the case, I applaud you and I support you. But should your class, like so many, be in need of an intentional, organized way of caring, then stay connected, stay tuned, because we want to help you. We want to provide you with some resources and some mechanisms and some method that's going to help you. We don't believe every class will look the same. As a matter of fact, I hope it doesn't. What organizational structure works for you in your class may not work for the guy down the road or down the hallway from you. And so we just want you to begin today to build in your heart an understanding that it's going to be something that we do because it's needed. So again, let's just kind of take a minute to talk about the purpose. I want you to answer these questions for me. What happens when? What happens when a member of your class, someone who's connected, attends? What happens if they're absent for several weeks and they do not receive a phone call, a note, or some kind of acknowledgement? You're right, they probably are less likely to come back. Well, what happens when a member in crisis goes undiscovered and the ministry opportunity is neglected or negated? What happens then? Or what happens when someone visits our class and there's no follow-up? Or what happens when someone in your class who's faithfully in attendance leaves and goes and serves in the children's department, the youth department, the preschool department, their Sunday school leader, and from that point on, they're almost forgotten. They don't receive any kind of a invitation to fellowships. They don't receive prayer cards. They don't receive any kind of a communication from the class. What do you think happens to them? Yeah, I'm afraid we know the answer to all those questions. Most oftentimes they'll either leave our church, drop out, or if they're faithful, they'll somehow believe that their class that's sending them as a missionary out, they just really don't care. So the answer to all of those questions is in just good communication, caring, and contacting. I oftentimes get asked, Andy, what are contacts? And I don't care to talk too much today about the method, because we will talk about phone calls and emails and visits and social media and postcards and wayside visits and all that. But this is what I want you to hear today. A contact is an intentional effort on behalf of your class or group to communicate to an individual who attends your class. So it's intentional, it's on behalf of you, it's on behalf of your class, and it's to someone who attends your class. One more time, it's intentional, it's on behalf of you, it's on behalf of your class, and it's pointed to someone who attends your class. But it has to be intentional. Contacts have to be planned. They have to show an effort and show that those who attend, our class members, our absentees, that they're real people and lives are valuable to us. Relationships are important. And if we really do care for them, then we'll contact them. And as faithful as we are in caring and ministering to those who attend, God will know that we're a trustworthy people. And you know what He'll do, South Main? He will continue to give us an increase. He'll begin to send people our way that we never even invited. Why? Because we've been faithful with little. Just as God's Word says, he who is faithful with little will be given much. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share with you today. That's the purpose of this video. I want to ask you, how are you doing? How do you think your class or your group's doing? Are you being intentional in your efforts to communicate, to care, and to contact for those people that God has brought our way? If not, let's make an agreement together that we're going to start today. Let's become intentional in our efforts of caring, contacting the people in our groups. And as we close this short video, in a minute you're going to get a chance to answer some questions, but I want you to do something before you answer those questions. I want you to pray. And I want to ask you to ask God to give you strength, because you're going to need it. Ask God to give you time, because you don't have much. And an awareness to become intentional and to care for those people that God has brought to our class. Again, of all the churches that God has blessed and will continue to bless, today we are one of those great churches. So it starts by just being broken and committed to that which God has already brought to us. How can we expect God to do more when we're not willing to do with that which God has brought us and entrusted us with right now? So thanks again for watching, and may we be a church that's known for caring, contacting, and communicating.